Hello and welcome to another Writerly Witterings with me, Michael Jex, the tea drinking author. And today I thought I would answer some of the questions that were given to me last week. As you may recall, I did a quick video on things like this, the Pineda Travelling Inkwell, and this, the Visconti Travelling Inkwell. And I was quite surprised by the number of responses I had back. One was, well, you don't need one because all you need to do is take your Diamine 30cc bottle with you and they're quite robust for travel. Yes, they are. They're very robust, actually. But they have two failings. Yes, they're robust. They're safe. But if you put them in an aircraft's cargo hold, because the airline doesn't want you to carry this much liquid in the cabin, then there's a problem. With the change in pressure, a bottle like this would have a sudden problem. If it's lying on its side like that, the change in pressure will make the oxygen, the air inside the bottle, expand, which will make pressure on the liquid itself. And liquid, I recall from physics at school, is not very easy to compress, which is why you have things like powerful tools work on hydraulics, not gas, because you create pressure at one end and the liquid itself won't compress, it'll push out. And what it'll do here is it'll pop that lid off and squirt ink all over your clothes. So if you're going in an aeroplane, not the best thing to take. There are other problems though too, which I have pointed out. First of all, they're not good for air pressure, yes. Second, I point this out, when it gets lower in its bottle, it's not so good for some fountain pens to fill. It's not so good for some fountain. Do you know what I mean? No, I doubt whether you do. I'm not too sure I do. What I mean is, when you get some fountain pens with a bigger end section and you want to fill them, sometimes you find you can't, because the nib and stuff won't reach the ink, which is obviously a problem if you're wandering around with a fat pen. Now, there are ways around it. You could buy a travelling inkwell like this glass one, which has a rather wider opening at the top, but that isn't ideal for everybody, is it? So there are definitely uses for these things. But there's one other use which I've got to point out, and that is how much better they are at filling. So with this Visconti Homo Sapiens, for example, I can demonstrate because it's got a nice clear plastic reservoir here. So just unscrew the top, pull it open. Now all you have to do with a vacuum filler like this is dunk it in some ink, push it down, and that click is a vacuum releasing, because the way this works is it has a perfect parallel-sided cylinder and it has this one little dinky washer, so as you push down it creates a vacuum behind it. Now, I haven't tried this experiment, but I'm going to show it to you now. Here I have a pot of water. Trying to demonstrate this is not easy, but believe me when I say what I'm doing is I am merely holding the nib in the water, press the top down, and you can see it has filled about halfway up. Now this has not been used for a while, so I'm going to do that again to get the maximum, because the best way of using these pens is to, now that's filled it a little bit more, but you can see the gap there that is not full of ink. So just empty that out. And now I'm going to demonstrate the difference when you fill it from a Visconti, in this case, travelling inkwell. So what you have to do is dripping ink, or in this case, luckily water, all over your desk. Now the best way of doing this is you push the Visconti or whatever it is into the inkwell fully, upend it, and then really quickly fill it like that. Now that did not work at all well, so I'm going to do it again. Now you can see there, I think, that there is a slight air bubble, but effectively that is the whole of the Visconti full of water in this case, but in your case it would be ink. Just do that again, push it all out, and then pop, and it's even more full. And that is the big benefit of these travelling inkwells. They're not just handy when you're going out and you want to be able to carry your ink with you. They're also handy because if you've got a vacuum filler, it's the best way of filling the thing absolutely full. There is no better way of doing it. So that's the first 2 points. It's not just the fact they're robust, it's also the fact that you can carry it in an airplane's hold, it'll be perfectly safe, and you can, if you wish, fill your fountain pen absolutely full. Now, what other alternatives are there? Well, I've got a few here. These things are great. They're really good, apart from the fact you can't necessarily get your pen into it. But of course, these are really useful. A standard universal ink cartridge. Absolutely no good with a Visconti or a Pineda or something similar, but they're very, very useful. The only trouble is, if you're like me and you have a variety of different colours of ink cartridge you want to use, and you change your mind daily, you don't want to throw away the ink that's in that cartridge. I mean, it may only be a few pennies, but it's still a waste. People have asked me, what's the best approach? Well, this is a Great Fountain Italy stopper. This ink cartridge is not open, but if it was, I'd just have to push that in and it would form a perfectly good watertight stopping. Now, these little stoppers are very, very good. They're very handy, they're very convenient. They do, however, have one slight issue, and that is that every fountain pen manufacturer will have a slightly different sized mouth to the in there. I don't know if you can quite see it. Yes, you can just see it there, the internal little lump sticking up, and that's the beginning of the feed to the nib. But that little beginning to the feed is also the puncturing thing that will make a hole in the top of the ink cartridge so the ink can flow. Nice and straightforward. Different pens have different sized feeds, and that means that you may have one that is perfectly suitable for one of those little stoppers, but you may have a pen where the actual puncturing bit the beginning of the feed, is much narrower than others. In which case, when you put the bung in, it'll be a bit hard to push it in, but never mind, carry on. That's fine. It'll stop the ink from leaking. What's not so fine is when you pull it out again, you may well find that the ink cartridge now has too wide a mouth to be able to fit tightly and securely on your fountain pen feed. What that means is you'll start getting leaks all around it, and that means you'll get inky fingers. We don't like inky fingers. So the solution I've found is only to take the thing out when you've made sure the cartridge itself is warm. If the cartridge is warm, take the stopper out and the plastic will constrict again to suit the correct size. If you take it out when it's cold, conversely, it will stay open and you'll get ink all over your pen. So just a quick one there, but that's from Great Fountain, Italy. I get no money from mentioning these, from mentioning these, from mentioning these or these. They're all just me chatting to you so you're aware of what is available. None of these things are things that I get sponsorship for or anything. So what else? Well, the other things that came up were, several people told me that when they use their Indiana Jones with the Pineda, they said they have no problem at all with filling it. It's absolutely fine. Now, I have no problem with most pens, but I do with this, and the reason is you can see there that this top bit is very sharply cut off. So when you look at it, it's been sliced across there where they put the nib and feed in. And I think it's that very sharp edge that gives me the problem, because inside here you can see those little sort of rings inside, and I think that my Model 58 butts up against one of those rings that's quite a long way out, and then when I try to tighten it, it's only part way onto that ring. Now you see, it doesn't matter how I try to do it, I've never yet managed to get a good seal between this pen and those rings. Whereas when I try the same thing with the Visconti travelling inkwell, no, I can't do it. With the Visconti, it's a great deal more effective because it is just a cone on the inside. So any pen I've got, I can push it straight down inside that cone and fill it without a problem. It forms a nice, robust, watertight seal. But, you know, that's fine. The Visconti version does cost a huge amount more. It's a delightful working system, but sometimes you have to pay a little bit more to get the ones that will work for you. That is not to say that the Pineda won't work for you. It may well do. It just doesn't work for me. And that is about it. That's a number of questions I had last week. Oh, there's one more. Conway Stewart. Someone has asked me, please encourage them to offer a proper Japanese extra fine nib. Those of us with very small handwriting need it. He said that he's got a number of Estabrooks and other pens, but he can't find Conway Stewart don't do, he said, a standard EF. No, they don't. Hold on 1 second. That's better. Sneezed, sorry. But what you can do is, if you contact Conway Stewart, they will grind the nib to whatever size you want. There's a special section at the bottom of, let me just find their website again. Oh, And I should say, I do get paid when you buy something from Conway Stewart if you mention my name and get the 5% discount. So, bespoke pens. Not that one. So in the shop, let's go to the Churchill. But this is the same with all of their pens, I believe. If you order one of their pens, there is a nib guide. So they have extra fine, fine, medium, broad. The extra fine goes from 0.35 mils to about 0.45, which is fine, but not as fine as some people would like. But what you can do is ask them if they could put the pen through their own nib grinder. They have a man that they use, I think it's a man, who will grind the nib to whatever sort of level you want. So don't feel restricted by what they've got on their website. There are other options. All you have to do is contact Conway Stewart, let them know what it is you really want, mention my name if you need to, and hopefully you'll find that you get exactly what it is you want, which is good. And now I see I've been whittering on for really quite a long time. So thanks ever so much for your patience. Thanks for watching. I've got a little video about dogs coming up. But in the meantime, if you've got any questions, please drop them in the comments below. Don't forget, if you like this, it helps support the channel. And apart from that, thanks a lot for watching, and I'll speak to you soon. Take care. Bye.